All right, we're in our last section about circles. This is going to be section 10.8, and this is equations of circles. Okay, so we're going to start out with a picture of a circle. So we're going to have our center, and we know that our circle will also have a radius. And something that we don't always think about, but it's true, is that from our center along our radius, we intersect another point out here, right? And so this point, we don't usually know what this point is, but it's there. Okay, and that point has an x and a y value. Well, our center also has an x and a y value, but it's not the same as this x and this y, right? So take that and keep it in your brain for a minute, and we're going to write down something that you do know. It's the distance formula, and it says that distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. We know this, right? You've seen this before. You understand that if we were going to find the distance from this red dot, the center of the circle, to this blue dot, we could use this formula and figure it out. As long as we knew what these 2 points were, we could figure out how long the radius is. Well, when we work with circles, we basically use this formula without really thinking about it. The center is always going to be referred to by the letters H and K. Okay, and the reason that is because so many of your problems use X's and Y's, we want to designate that H and K always stands for the center of something. So later you're going to do different shapes besides circles, and they're still going to use H and K as the center. So if we rewrite this distance formula in terms of the letters that are in our picture here, hopefully you can see that the radius of the circle is equal to the square root of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And all I did basically is replace x2 with x and x1 with h, and then the same for the y and the k. Now, when you look at that, it looks kind of disgusting, right? That doesn't look like an equation for something. That just looks like a hot mess. Well, something you can do math-wise that you know is we can square both sides of this. And what that does is gets rid of this square root, right? So now we have r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And that looks a little more friendly, right, than this square root mess. So what we're learning here, what this is that we just wrote down, this is called the standard equation of a circle. And we're going to write it in the opposite order. So we're going to write x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So out of all that talking I just did, this is the only part that we're going to use. But I wanted you to understand where it comes from and why it works. So when you see this standard equation of a circle, and we look back at our picture, remember that our equation says x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Well, the center of the circle was the point HK, and the radius was whatever number the R winds up equaling. So this is what we're trying to learn, and we're going to start right into doing examples with it. So our first example is going to be to write the equation of a circle with center -2, 3 and radius 5. So the way you do this is you identify the information that's given to you. So it tells me that the center is -2, 3. Well, that means that h is -2, k is 3, and r is 5. So my equation, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, can just be substituted with these values. So x minus, now h is -2, plus y minus, k is 3, equals r squared. So that's 5 squared. And of course, you know, we can't leave our answer like that. That looks disgusting also. So we clean it up a little bit. So x minus -2 is x plus 2 squared, plus y minus 3 is good, it just stays the same, and 5 squared is 25. So this is the equation of a circle with this center and that radius. Now, something we want to notice is this was -2. Well, now it's +2. This was +3. Well, now it's -3. So when you're writing these equations, the numbers that go here are really the opposites of what you see here. And that's because of the minus sign in the middle. So here's another example. It says state the center and radius of the circle given by the equation x minus 4 squared plus y plus 7 squared equals 24. All right, so it wants us to say what is the center, what is the radius. Well, remember our formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So if we want to find the h and the k, let's start with the h. Well, we see it right here. Right, our formula goes x minus h, and this says x minus 4, so the h is 4. It's not -4. Right, now we want to find the k. Well, we can see it right here. Except that this sign changed, right? So if it was a minus in the formula, and then the equation they gave us made it a plus, that means it must have been -7, not +7 for the k. And if that makes sense to you, or if it doesn't make sense to you, remember when we went back up to our previous problem and I said that it's always the opposite, so -2, +2. And here we had -4, +4, +7, -7. Okay, so h is 4, k is -7. And to find the r, well, we know right here that r squared equals 24. Well, that means r equals the square root of 24, right? Because that's how we get rid of that squared, is we square root both sides. So r equals, and now you're going to have to do this thing that nobody likes to do. We go through and circle things that show up in groups of 2. We leave things that are singletons by themselves. They stay home. They don't get to go out. And we take the pair, so the pair gets to go out, and the things that are single stay home, right? So 2 square root 6 is our radius. So state the center. So the center is 4, -7. State the radius. Okay, one more example, and we're going to be done. Write the equation of the circle with center -2, 4 that passes through -6, 7. Okay, and if we're not sure what that's saying, we're going to draw a picture of this one, because this is a good one to have a picture for. It's saying that there's a circle, and we want to come up with the equation for this circle. And all we know about it is that it has a center of -2, 4, and it passes through a point -6, 7. Now that's a little tricky to think about, right? Where does it go over here? Does it go over here? Does it go over here? Well, for the purposes of your picture, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so you can put it anywhere. So we'll say that point is right here. It's -6, 7. And we want to write out the equation. So we want to write out x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Well, we're kind of almost there, because we know the h and the k, right? That's the center. So the h is -2 and the k is 4. Not so bad. And we also were given an x and a y, weren't we? So if we plugged all those in, if we put the x and the h and the y and the k all where they go, they would equal r squared, right? Well, then we would have to square root everything to get just r by itself, right? But not really, because we need r squared, right? We don't need r. We can find out what r is once we find out what r squared is, and we just square root it. So you can literally just take these numbers, plug them in, right? So -6 minus -2 is -6 plus 2. 7 minus 4 is 3. So -6 plus 2 is -4. So -4 squared is 16, and this is where your calculator will fail you if you don't use those parentheses like that. 3 squared is 9. So 25 is r squared. That's what we needed for our equation. Now we can write down that 5 is the r, that's great, but the question doesn't ask us for the radius, it asks us to find the equation. So our equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So it's x plus 2 plus y minus 4 equals 25. All right, so that's it. See you tomorrow.